Hi, here we are with the first essay of our semester. Comedy, As You Like It, or A Midsummer Night's Dream. So those are the two plays that we're looking at here that are referred to as comedies. So please choose one of the comedies assigned this semester, blah, blah, blah. So here are 4 potential questions, okay? You are to pick one of them and construct an argumentative essay based on research and your own close reading of the play. Okay, so what does that mean? Means on the one hand, right, you are going to make an argumentative essay. That means you have a point that you're trying to prove to the reader, what we call the thesis. You should be very familiar with that, having successfully navigated English 101 or its equivalent. Research. That means we're going to look things up. We have a library here at Mesa College with a lot of good resources, including databases specifically devoted to literature, as well as, of course, more general databases. And your own close reading of the play. So I want you to be looking at that play, thinking about what's in that play. I don't need you to construct a paper that says, here's all the research I found about this play, right? What I want you to do is think about issues and construct your own original argument. So here's the first question. Consider the portrayal of gender roles and expectations in the comedy, meaning you can choose either one of the two. And in particular, how gender or its representation becomes fluid or mutable. Mutable means changing, right? Things can change this way or that way. Fluid, it kind of goes back and forth. How does a work examine or re-examine gender roles in Shakespeare's time? Okay, and you may need a little research for that. Of course, Greenblatt's textbook, the Shakespeare book that we're using for our class, will be very helpful for that. But you could also, and you should also, go get other sources. What new concepts are accepted or rejected? How does it serve to exacerbate, make something worse, or relieve, make something better? Conflict. Simply put, consider whether the play reinforces traditional gender definitions and expectations, or constructs new ones instead. So that's one of the questions that you could choose to write about. Here's another question. How do social hierarchies, i.e. class divisions, inform the actions of characters and the relationships with each other? Who's up, who's down, right? Who's higher class, who's lower class? The working class, the nobles, right? They're all here. How are portrayals of different classes used to reinforce or question social norms? So again, these are opposites. To reinforce means to, keep it going. To question might mean, hey, we need to take a step back at this, re-examine this, that kind of thing. What is the end result of the testing of social structures in the play? Ultimately, how does class function within the play? That's social, economic, political class, right? Not class as in do you have good manners? Carefully examine the dichotomy of reason and fantasy in one of the plays. Okay, so dichotomy, di meaning two, so something which is split into two. There's reason on the one side, fantasy on the other. Both of our comedies have a good hefty dose of fantasy. What does the dream irrational state, right, often connected with the forest scenes, offer as a way for the civilized or rational state to resolve conflict? So you have the city, right, where you have basically rationalism, and then you have the forest, where wild things can happen and do, right? The dream state, right, the irrational state, again, often associated with the forest, and then the rational state. Consider, if you will, what does the fantasy offer that reason Cannot. You might wish to consider where the conflict originates in determining how the conflict may be resolved. Right? Where does it originate? Where does it come from? How does it begin? What are the, let's say, just simply issues behind that? Here we have a typo here from Mr. Hoffman's class. Both should be plays, obviously, have been categorized as romantic comedies. How does Shakespeare's comedic sensibilities set the stage for the contemporary genre of the rom-com movement? Right, we have rom-coms, the romantic comedy, very, very popular. Right, they have been for years and years. If you choose this question, engage with at least 3 contemporary films, in addition to the other minimum required sources. And by contemporary, I would say something within, I don't know, since the 80s. I mean, I'm pretty good with, Pretty Woman, When Harry Met Sally, as well as much more more current or contemporary films. The paper is due to be submitted to Canvas by Monday, September 20, 11:59 p.m. Be sure to follow the out-of-class paper guidelines for matters of form and style. Remember that is on your Canvas website for our class. Please read that carefully. Watch the video that I've constructed that goes with it. Use correct MLA documentation as described in the MLA for Literature class handout, again, to be found on our Canvas page. And the MLA Handbook 9th edition, that is, of course, the current edition of MLA. Be sure to include a word count at the end of your essay, so you can find that very easily, of course. How long is your essay? Remember, you must meet minimum requirements, including word count, sources, and subject matter. Now, one thing I'll say is minimums are not maximums. You can always do more, okay? And while I have some students who always just skate right along the very surface of minimum, I have other students who, quite frankly, just simply want to say something important, and if it takes them more words, then they write more words. If they need more research, then they get more research, right? That kind of thing. That's pretty cool. No late essays will be accepted without a verifiable medical or legal issue, right? So please don't just say I got the sniffles and I couldn't finish it, because there's no way to verify that. I've had so many students with the sniffles over the years that it's embarrassing. Of course, if you want to ask me about your essay before turning it in for a grade, please visit me during my Zoom office hours, which are held Monday through Thursday, 10 to 11 a.m. You may wish to contact me ahead of time so I know when to expect you, but it is not required. Okay, so my office hours are there for you to drop in, but just to be honest, it's always helpful and nice if I do know that you're coming. Okay, it's not mandatory though. Now the minimum requirements. First of all, 1,000 to 1,400 words. That's approximate, right? That little symbol there, at least that's what my memory tells me is approximate in math. So I'm not looking for a 3,000 word essay, although I'm going to be honest, I've had many students write far more than 1,400 words just because they're inspired and they found things to write about. And as long as it's good, as long as it's something that is, really communicating something of insight and value, I don't mind. If it becomes a slog, if it's not really necessary that you have so many words, you're just kind of puffing things up, my reaction might be a bit different. Now you need to have citations from at least 4 different sources. At least 4. One of the sources must be the original play. That's obvious, right? You either do As You Like It or Midsummer Night's Dream. At least 2 sources must be scholarly works, which would include things like peer-reviewed journals, university press books, dissertations, that kind of thing, right? Scholarly work. The 4th source can be a source of your own choosing, but it must be a credible source in its own right, not a movie. And I think this throws things into a bit of a twist, because you may, of course, use a movie, but it would be in addition to these 4 different sources, okay? In addition to what you have, right? And that's what it says next bullet point. You may, of course, have more than 4 sources, including movies. There are movie versions of As You Like It and a movie version of Midsummer Night's Dream. They're both, I think, pretty good. I've seen them both. I mean, current ones. This one has Bryce Dallas Howard in it. I think that's her name. As the main actress. Michelle Pfeiffer is in Midsummer Night's Dream, aka Mr. Hoffman's next wife. MLA format in presentation and documentation, including correct works cited. Right, I've already mentioned that a couple times. Please make sure you use the MLA literature class handout. Make sure you are in sync with the current edition, which is the 9th edition of MLA. Failure to do so will, of course, hurt your grade. Okay, so there's the first assignment, the first essay assignment, I should say, because you also have your discussion threads.